that are going on in his busy transition right now.
President-elect Trump is blasting the push for a recount in Wisconsin. He sent a series of tweets Sunday morning writing, "Hillary Clinton conceded the election when she called me just prior to the victory speech, and after the results were in, nothing will change."
I think that Governor Romney, who went out of his way to question the character and the intellect and the integrity of Donald Trump, now our president-elect, would be given the most significant cabinet post of all, Secretary of State. The number of people who feel betrayed to think that Governor Romney would get the most prominent cabinet post after he went so far out of his way to hurt Donald Trump. There was the Never Trump movement, and then there was Mitt Romney. This is Trump's party now, and he won states that Mitt Romney lost. He's the one with the political instincts, the brilliance. We're all for party unity. I don't think a cost of admission for party unity has to be the Secretary of State position.
Does this mean Rudy Giuliani has that job?
Well, let's, before we get to that, this is an extraordinary thing you're watching. Essentially, the campaign manager is accusing her boss of betraying the campaign that he just ran on several different television shows. It's not some outside force that's pushing Mitt Romney. It's President-elect Trump who's considering Mitt Romney for the post. So that's an extraordinary thing that must be remarked upon. This doesn't usually happen in presidential transitions, that a top person in the transition sends that strong and blunt a message to the president-elect. So to your question about Rudy Giuliani, it's unclear. President-elect Trump was at times asking people whether they thought it should be Rudy Giuliani or Mitt Romney. And his mind was, he was kind of weighing and judging the two. Mitt Romney, he mentions, looks the part. Rudy Giuliani, a loyalist to his bones for Donald Trump. But there are some who are worried that Rudy Giuliani's personal business interests would cause some issues with his confirmation. Donald Trump, it's fascinating to watch the way in which he's responded to some of his critics. I mean, Nikki Haley was a critic, not in the category that Mitt Romney was in, but was a critic, and she's now ambassador to the UN. Kelly Ayotte, former senator from New Hampshire, was a critic, and Donald Trump told the New York Times she's not going to get any post anywhere, anytime.
New Hampshire.
Thank you very much, Alan. That's right. New Hampshire Senator Kelly Ayotte voted no on gun reform legislation, despite the fact that 89% of the voters in her state wanted background checks for gun buyers. Voted no. 89% said, yeah, we'd kind of like that. Kelly Ayotte said, nah, no dice. Nah, ain't gonna happen. Nah, 89%, no, I don't think so.
So it's fascinating to watch him. He thinks of himself as a counterpuncher, and so it's interesting when the counterpuncher lets somebody, or even thinks about somebody like Mitt Romney, might come in. So we don't know what's going to happen. But
all right, let's talk about the recount effort now. Ed, Trump has blasted Green Party candidate Jill Stein's effort to recount votes in 3 states, calling it a scam. Trump has also been tweeting up a storm against Clinton after her campaign said it would back Stein's efforts in an attempted recount. So what do you make of this recount attempt?
Well, look, there's no reason to believe, there's no evidence, at least so far, that a recount would change the results in any dramatic way, that would reverse it and give one of the states to Hillary Clinton. But it seems that Jill Stein was able to find enough support and enough monetary support, frankly, to force one in Wisconsin. So the Clinton folks, without really lifting a finger, said, okay, well, we'll support that. We'll send our lawyers to keep an eye on things. But it's not Hillary Clinton's request for this recount. I think part of this, frankly, for Democrats is cathartic. They suffered a bit of a death, if you will, a political death 3 weeks ago, and this perhaps is an autopsy to prove why it is it happened and to what extent it happened. I think also, though, whether they want it to be this way or not, this may actually do Donald Trump a favor, because it may assuage the doubts of a lot of people that question whether or not the election was rigged, whether the Russians had something to do with it, whether the data was manipulated in any way.
Molly, do you think Trump needs to respond to this?
Well, no, but as Ed said, he can't resist taking the bait, and you can understand why this gets his goat. I mean, the Clinton campaign was in full pearl-clutching, fainting couch mode when Trump suggested that he might not immediately accept the results of the election because he suspected it might be rigged against him. So to see the shoe on the other foot is a bit rich, and I think for him, he couldn't resist weighing in on that and noting the incredible irony of, you know, his attempt to to claim that the election might be rigged was what met with so much derision, so much criticism, and to now have a lot of it's mostly grassroots on the left, right? That's where the money is coming from for Jill Stein. As Ed mentioned, there's a lot of anguish among Democratic partisans who don't want to accept the results of the election, and that's what's funding Jill Stein. The Clinton campaign's involvement is, as you said, quite minimal, but I think it's quite understandable that Trump would see an incredible irony here in the way the situation's been reversed from what people expected during that third debate, when he said he would only accept the election if he won.
Let's talk about the trans. Molly, before we go,
but this was a pattern that we saw throughout the campaign, where aides to Trump knew that anything said in a private conversation might or might not be heeded, because Trump has a way of telling people what they want to hear in the moment and then discarding it in favor of who else he talked to next. Trump's aides, including and perhaps most prominently Kellyanne Conway, are accustomed to giving him this kind of public advice because they know he watches television, they know he takes seriously the things that are said in public that affect the news stories about him, and it's often a more effective way of getting him to listen. So I think her public lobbying effort suggests that she is first highly alarmed by this potential appointment, but second is not convinced that her private entreaties are getting through.
As John Dickerson said, it is all fascinating to watch. So Molly Ball and Ed O'Keefe in Washington, thanks so much for joining us.